Hi, today we will discuss how to take care of a post-operative ICU patient. My name is Dr. Varun Deshmukh and I am Chief Intensivist at one of the prominent tertiary care hospital at Mumbai. So first of all, generally an anesthetist would have accompanied your patient when the patient is shifted to ICU. So take history from the anesthetist about the pre-operative event, pre-operative status and intraoperative events. Also it is wise to discuss with the surgeon about the fine details of the surgery which are pertaining to post-operative care. You can also see the operative notes, anesthetist chart to know what exactly happened during the surgery. So this is about the handover. Now what details you should know. So know about the medical history of the patient, whether the patient had hypertension, diabetes, ischemic heart disease, thyroid related issues or any other infections which was pre-operatively diagnosed, and what medications patient was taking for that same thing. The medications for arrhythmia, steroids, thyroid related medications, these are generally, or angina related medications, these are generally continued even in the post-operative period. Compared to these oral hypoglycemic agents, antihypertensives, anticoagulants or antiplatelets, these group of medications may not be started immediately post-operatively and may be started after a day or two depending on various parameters. So just keep that in mind. Also find out what were the previous investigations of your patient, what was the ECG, what was the echo, what was the functional status of the patient. These all things will give you an impression about the patient's overall profile. After knowing the history and the pre-operative investigation, find out what was the indication of the surgery, whether it was an emergency or a planned surgery. The emergency surgery patient would not be optimized from the point of view of blood pressure or cardiac point of view or even diabetes point of view. So keep that in mind. Once you find this out, go forward and assess your patient. Find out about the intraoperative events. Find out whether there was any arrhythmia, any fluctuations in the blood pressure, any unexpected blood loss or complications related to surgery. These will also help you take a decision about further care of this patient. Okay. Go through the chart, go through the intraoperative vitals, intraoperative intake and output. The intraoperative intake may include crystalloids, colloids or blood products. The output may include urine output, blood loss or insensible loss. Insensible loss depends on the type of surgery and how much of the viscera is exposed to the atmosphere. Insensible loss is highest for abdominal, for laparotomy. It ranges from 6 to 8 ml per kg per hour. That means for a 60 kg patient in an hour, the loss may be 350 to 400 ml. And suppose the surgery has lasted for 8 hours, you can calculate the loss might be from 2.5 to 3 liters. So definitely it has to be taken into account. Now after you know all this, assess your patient. So assess the vitals, assess the periphery, whether patient is cold or well perfused. Also auscultate the chest for any additional lung sounds or any cardiac abnormal sound. Assess for effect of anesthesia. So sometimes the patient is on ventilator and has not been reversed from the muscle relaxant. In this case, the blood pressure may shoot, the heart rate may be very high, and after giving a small dose of midazolam or fentanyl, immediately the parameters would settle. So be aware of this problem. Also assess when the patient is given regional anesthesia. What is the level of motor block? What is the level of analgesia? What is the level of sensory block? These all things should be documented. Apart from this, what investigation to send? This is the very important topic which we encounter in day-to-day life, and probably the junior doctors are most stressed about these things, what investigation to send in the post-operative period. So it depends on the nature of surgery, how the nature of blood loss and the fluid shifts. If you be logical, generally I don't think there would be a problem. For all major surgeries, probably sending HB potassium and ABG with lactate. These are the essential investigations. Now if there is lot of blood transfusion or lot of fluid were given, then you may want to send electrolytes, you may want to check the platelets or PTINR for the coagulation related issues. When the patient is intubated post-operatively, in the post-operative period, you should do an X-ray. The other indications for doing an X-ray include intraoperative insertion of lines, central line or PA line, operations which are performed on the lungs, pleura or chest wall, or any drains kept in situ intraoperatively. Then in that case also you need to do a post-operative chest X-ray. Okay. Apart from that, ABG with lactate is a very important tool. Now, what IV fluid to choose? So the commonest fluid that we use is normal saline. A very good alternative to normal saline are the balanced salt solution. They are more physiological. Osmolarity matches with the serum osmolarity more closely. They also contain potassium, calcium, sometimes magnesium, and a buffer which may be lactate or acetate. Ringer's lactate, Plasma Lite A2, Sterophundin, Cabilite. These are the commonly available balanced crystalloids in our hospital. So either NS or balanced salt solution, or it can be given alternatively. Generally we give 1 to 1.5 ml per kg per hour, and depending on the patient's hydration status, we may have to give more fluids also. If the patient is severely hypoalbuminemic, or if there is lot of third spacing, we may also give albumin to this patient. DNS or D5 may have to be given for hypoglycemic patient. D5 may be preferred when the sodium is elevated. Okay. Also, common post-operative management includes keeping the patient warm, giving DVT prophylaxis in the form of compression stockings or SCDs, what we call sequential compression devices. Also, the management of sugar. So, for diabetic patient, the acceptable range of blood sugar is from 110 to 180, and we should try to manage the sugar in this range. If it goes up, we can give insulin in the immediate post-op period and control it. Once the patient's oral intake is started and tolerated, then we can switch to the previous oral hypoglycemic agents. We should be aware for how many hours the patient is to be kept NBM, and based on that we have to give IV fluids. Once the oral intake is started, it is generally started with sips of water, then liquids, then soft diet, and then solid in that sequence. So as the oral intake improves, you can keep on reducing the fluids and eventually stop it. Now coming to the ventilator part. So many patients undergo major surgeries and have to be kept ventilated for some time. So immediately when the patient comes to the ICU, see what are the ventilator settings, do an ABG, and based on the ABG decide how do you want to change the settings. So in a normal patient, you would reduce the FiO2, you would adjust the tidal volume and respiratory rate according to the patient's acid-base status. You should also see the potassium and lactate in the ABG if possible, and based on that you can decide on further hydration and these things. Now when the patient is on ventilator, make sure to keep the patient comfortable, pain-free. If the patient is awake, talk to the patient, tell the patient that his operation has been done, it has been done successfully, what time is it, what date is it. If possible, call the relative and make the patient meet with the relatives, so their confidence will increase. Also explain the patient that the tube in their mouth is actually a ventilator related tube, and it will be removed soon as per the patient's recovery from the operative procedure. So after assuring and explaining everything, definitely most of our patients I have observed do become calm, and the process becomes easier. The ventilator asynchrony, the fighting, all these things can be suppressed without giving too much sedation to these patients. What sedative agent to be used? So the most often what we use is midazolam plus fentanyl, or just fentanyl as an analgesia and as a agent for the patient to tolerate the ET tube. When the patient has liver or kidney dysfunction, these midas or fentanyl can have a prolonged clearance, and their effect may be residual for a longer time. So in that case you can use propofol. For neurological patients also, using propofol is better because it has a short life, and once you stop it, immediately the patient is awake and the neurological status can be assessed. Now we will discuss about various surgeries and specific points pertaining to those surgeries. So for example, for cardiac surgery, these patients come with intercostal with ICDs which are in the pleura or mediastinum. So immediately when the patient reaches ICU, make them propped up to 45 to 50 degrees and see any collected blood which comes out. After that also every hour monitor the drain output. If the drain output is more than 100 ml per hour, that is a very significant output, and immediately be in touch with the surgeon also to inform them. Sometimes these patients may need to be re-explored because of high drain output to control the bleeding. So be aware of the high drain output, especially during the first 6 to 12 hours of cardiac surgery. Other thing is sometimes these patients may have pacemakers, temporary pacemakers attached to the epicardium. So see what are the pacemaker settings, what is the rate, what is the output, which mode of pacing is being used. Know all these things. That will help you know if in case of emergency how to change things on the pacemaker. Also be aware that many times these patients, the cardiac patients, their heart rate is also one of the important factor for cardiac output. So if there is a sudden drop in the heart rate, say from 100 to 80, for that patient it may be significant. So actively monitor the BP, and if the BP is also dropping with heart rate, that indicates that patient might require atropine or might require pacing to keep heart rate at a certain level. So be aware of this thing. These patients have central lines, have PA lines, so monitor PA pressure, monitor CVP, read the theory about these things to get yourself better prepared for this situation. For neurological patient, neurosurgical patient rather, these patients generally assess their baseline status first, their pupils, GCS, and any weakness. Check movement of all four limbs, check movements of extraocular muscles, check for facial weakness, and document that at the immediate post-op period. Every hourly keep on assessing at least the GCS, pupil, and focal neurological deficit. And if you notice any weakness, any new weakness, or any asymmetry in pupil which was not there earlier, or any drop in GCS by more than 2, these are significant findings, and immediately inform the surgical team. Generally in this situation you have to do a CT scan of brain to find out whether there is any bleed or any intracranial rise in intracranial pressure or any new infarct has developed. So be aware of these things and actively monitor these. Sometimes the patient has a extraventricular drain in situ. So be very careful while handling these drains. Take aseptic precautions while moving the patient or giving care to this patient. Make sure that the drain is not accidentally removed. This is about the EVD. Now for GI surgeries, when the patient undergoes esophageal or stomach surgeries, sometimes the anastomosis is at a higher level, and a tube is always kept just at the site of anastomosis to drain any secretions or any collections. Another tube is also kept there, which is distal to the anastomosis, sometimes up to the level of jejunum, for feeding purpose. So be aware which tube is which, and which tube has to be connected to the drain all the time. Okay. For commando surgery, for example, there is a flap. So every 2 hours the surgeon comes and scratches on the flap. Sometimes this work is given to the ICU nurses also. So if there is delay in the bleeding from the flap, say more than 2 to 3 seconds, that means the vascularity of flap is not good. If there is dark colored blood, that means there is congestion, venous congestion predominantly, and this is also not a good sign. So in either of this situation, you should inform the surgical team immediately for reassessment, and sometimes these patients may have to be re-explored also. In commando surgeries also be aware that the surgery, the airway is very precious, because there is always this is going to be a difficult intubation. So make sure that the ET tube is not blocked, and every 4 hourly do a regular suction for the ET tube for these patients. So in general, I think this is all about the post-operative ICU care. If you want to know more about the ICU related topics, please subscribe to my channel. Please write down in the comment box what all topics you want to learn from me, and I will definitely try to come up with new videos. Till then, goodbye.